everybody. Welcome to our first weekly current events Real Speaks show in almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. Hi, everyone.
So, I'm Hope.
And I'm Tavon.
And we are here to bring you some of the latest stories in the news just this past week.
Yep.
And every now and then we might kind of dig into stories that are related in the past to give you a little bit more of a background. But today's show, we're going to be covering the following. Facebook leaks. Yeah, because there were some leaked audios that came out and some stuff that happened after that. Leaked audios from Zuckerberg, that is. And UK Psyop Brigade.
Yeah, UK division, Ministry of Defense.
Yeah, so there's some really interesting stuff that's happening there. And it's links to Twitter as well.
Yeah, LinkedIn to Twitter as well. Yeah.
And then Greta Thunberg, I believe.
Oh, okay, Greta.
Yeah, and her links to Soros. This was there were some stories out there that were kind of fabricated with a photoshopped image, but there's some other links to Soros that we just want to highlight and bring out, so you can see where the craziness of the angry girl is coming from. And last but not least, the most recent, the Eat the Babies prank.
Yeah, well, that was kind of a plot twist, but yeah.
Yeah, it is a plot twist, but I saw it came out. So we're going to review all these things and dig into it. And as always, our show is brought to you live from us. And we've got several different products that we'll be plugging throughout the course of the show. If you want to help support us,
yes.
Let's start with our EMF protection products.
Yes.
Tavon, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the reasons why we got involved with EMF protection is because we both had difficulties dealing with EMF in our home. And for me, it impacted things like sleep. And so we started to come up with solutions based on research that we've done, what other people were doing online. And we actually tried this stuff and came up with a couple of products that our customers are finding a benefit, our family and our friends. And I'll start with something like, for example, we have these sleeping pods. From the feedback that we've been receiving, there seems to be quite a few people having difficulty sleeping at night. Like we did, what we're finding is that if you leave your routers on or any kind of equipment on, electrical equipment, you have a lot of EMF going through the house. And the EMF, things from your television, from your radio, all these things emit EMF, can create difficulty in sleeping and actually cause insomnia.
And EMF stands for electromagnetic frequencies, which can really stimulate you or overstimulate you or just irritate you in general. A lot of people are very sensitive to them.
Yes.
So these sleeping pods, they help to transform the energy. They don't just block the EMFs, but they transform it into a healthy, beneficial energy that's good for the body, which relaxes you.
Right.
There's a lot of science behind this, and we have all of our science backed up on our website as well.
Yeah.
And we make these products by hand
That's
in
right.
Morocco, and we ship all over the world. We have over 2,000 very happy, satisfied customers by this point. So we hope that you will go ahead and check out our Sleeping Pod EMF protection products at the link below this video.
Right.
So with that, let's get started. Let's move on to Facebook leaks. So recently, The Verge put out a transcript of a leaked audio tape, and they also put they put up the transcript and the audio itself. This is a leaked tape of Zuckerberg speaking in a more casual manner. This is actually from one of his Facebook company-wide Q&A sessions. So it's like a private company meeting with all the employees there in a big stadium, and they put out these leaks. Now, what's interesting about this, I think it was I forget who it was. It was like an intern or some sort of disgruntled employee that leaked the tape or something like that. And it was a surprise to Zuckerberg as well, because later on, as we'll see, he actually came out and decided to just live stream one of their Q&A sessions for the whole world to see what goes on inside the company. But we'll get to that in a second. What we want to do is just take a look at a few of the things that happened in this leak. So this here is from The Verge. This is a full transcript of everything that was said in this particular audio. And they went through, they have a Q&A session. So someone will stand up and ask a question, and then Zuckerberg will answer the question. Now, there's a few things here that I actually wanted to highlight. A lot of people are focusing on the biggest part of this, which was Elizabeth Warren quoted that she wants to break up companies like Facebook and big tech, because they're a monopoly and they're all working together, and that's not right, and it's bad for what's going on. So anyway, he responded to that. A lot of people have commented on that. We're actually going to skip over that part, but if you want, the links will be here if you can go and read for yourself what he said about the potential breakup of Facebook and Elizabeth Warren and what she said there. Basically, it just shows that these companies are working together,
and it's become a political issue that politicians are willing to use it as a tool for their own politics.
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition to that, it's like, they are working together, like they already did when all of them teamed up on somebody like Alex Jones, for example, and deplatformed and depersoned him across Google and Twitter and Facebook, etc. So that's not what we're going to cover. What we want to dig into, I'm going to start with one question here. So let me just scroll down to it. All right, let's start off with something a little bit lighter. This is somebody asked, this is him on what employees should tell friends who don't like Facebook. And the employee was asking, what can we do to help improve Facebook's self-image to our peers and friends that might have a negative opinion of the company?
Yeah.
And so this is what Mark's response was.
Well, look, I think humanizing stuff is always really important. So I've always focused more on the substance and trying to deliver things and a bit less on the perception. And I think we don't have that luxury anymore. For the first 10 years of the company or so, we got more glowing press than I think any company deserves. And it wasn't just Facebook, it was the whole tech industry. And then I think a lot changed in the last few years, and especially since the 2016 elections. And people are just more aware of a lot of these issues, and the pendulum in terms of perception is swinging or has swung towards focusing more on issues. But I think some of the most devastating critique is not around substance in terms of what the companies do, it's around a motive. So either we don't care because we just care about making money because we're a business, or we don't care about certain issues because we're biased to not care about them. I think it's tough to break down these perceptions and build trust until you get to a place where people know that you have their best interest at heart.
Okay, we're going to stop there because the main gist of what his answer is it's tough to break down these perceptions and build trust. Now, when I first mentioned this to T, I was like, and T comes out with, well, when you say things like you call your users, and I'm quoting him, so we don't like to curse normally on the air, but I'm quoting him now. Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg, when he was younger, called the Facebook users dumb fucks because they trusted him. Let's talk about that. Let's go jump over to that article and see why he's having such a hard time getting people to trust him. All right, this is one copy of the article, but this particular news story, it went all over the place, and it's legitimate because Facebook never came back and disputed it. When somebody leaked some conversations that Mark Zuckerberg had with his friends when he was much younger, he was 19. Yeah. Pompous little 19-year-old guy, and he was getting all this money and building up this company. And so Facebook founder calls trusting users dumb fucks. Here's the article. Lovable Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg called his first few thousand followers dumb fucks for trusting him with their data, published IM transcripts show. Facebook hasn't disputed the authenticity of the transcript. Zuckerberg was chatting with an unnamed friend apparently in early 2004. Business Insider, which has a series of quite juicy anecdotes about Facebook's early days, takes the credit for this one. And so here is the exchange. I will have Tavon read Zuckerberg's quotes, and then I'll just be the redacted friend's name in the middle. So Zuck says...
Yeah, so if you ever need info about anyone at Harvard, just ask. I have over 4,000 emails, pictures, addresses, and SNS.
What? How'd you manage that one?
People just submitted it. I don't know why. They trust me, dumb fucks.
They trust me, in quotation marks. So there you have it. That's why it's tough to break down these perceptions and build trust. Not a great way to start off. Let's move on to another question. Oh, did you want to say something?
Oh, yeah. I mean, also, when you throw in the censorship that people are experiencing on the Facebook platform, these things, they add up.
Well, we're actually going to get into that now, because what you see with the censorship is not only is there censorship, but it's extremely hypocritical censorship. Because what happened recently is The Verge, recently it was, not this week, but a little while ago, The Verge started coming out with these articles, and they were talking about investigative reporting that they were doing. They were interviewing actual ex-employees and some current employees at Facebook, at their contractor websites. I'm sorry, their contractor workplaces. Okay? So Facebook hires these big temp companies. They employ at least 30,000 people. And these people's jobs is to sit down and moderate the content for Facebook.
Oh, you're talking about the content moderators.
Yes, the content moderators.
Right, yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
And so The Verge went to a couple of these places, and they spoke to a few of the people that worked for Facebook, and they got an inside scoop on what was going on inside of what I would consider to be probably one of the most traumatizing jobs on the planet, in my opinion. Okay?
Yes.
And they did this exclusive article, or a few articles on this. But before we go there, this was addressed in this leaked transcript. Okay, right here. So on The Verge's content moderation stories. So the question was, as we all know, Facebook receives a lot of content, millions of posts every hour. Because of this, Facebook has recently started outsourcing some of its moderation capabilities to different companies. Well, an article earlier this summer came out by The Verge exposing some of the mental, emotional abuses experienced by these outside contractors. I was wondering, what is Facebook's plan to protect these contractors from what can be seen as the worst the internet has to offer? Now, Mark Zuckerberg, you can read his entire response. I'll just kind of paraphrase it for you. The first thing he says is, some of the reports, I think, are a little overdramatic.
Yeah.
Actually, let's hear him say it himself. All right, and to that question, this was Zuckerberg's answer in his own words.
Some of the reports, I think, are a little overdramatic from digging into them and understanding what's going on. It's not that most people are just kind of looking at just terrible things all day long, but there are really bad things that people have to deal with, and making sure that people get the right counseling and space and ability to kind of to take breaks and get the mental health support that they need is a really important thing.
All right, so look at that opening line. Some of the reports, I think, are a little overdramatic. I want to dig a little deeper and look at these reports so that the audience themselves, you tell me if you think it's overdramatic, and you'll see in one of these reports, one of these people actually died. They had a heart attack and died at their desk because of what they were dealing with. Is that overdramatic?
And that was from one of the whistleblowers who were one of the content moderators.
All right, so this is one of the articles from The Verge that was put out that the person was speaking about. This is Bodies and Seats,
Yes.
the name of it. And this is the one that talks about one of the Facebook employees who actually died. He had a heart attack at his desk at work, and he ended up in the hospital dying the same day. And tell us a little bit about the fact that he was a Coast Guard.
Well, so this employee, this is a testimonial from the Cognizant co-workers in the same, content moderators who were in the same office as this employee who died. He was a veteran. He was a Coast Guard officer, and this was his job after he left the military. And he, too, was extremely troubled and traumatized from the job of being a content moderator working for Cognizant that was subcontracted from Facebook. And he literally died. He suffered like a heart attack type event, and then later on he died in the hospital, and his employees actually witnessed this happen. And how he was treated, or how the whole event was treated afterwards, itself was shocking.
Well, the problem is, and it says that he left behind a wife, Joni, and 2 young daughters. Everybody at the facility, all his coworkers, saw this happen.
Yes.
And then he left the building. They brought him to the hospital, and that's where he died. But then they covered it up and lied to his coworkers, saying everything's fine. He's fine. He's doing fine. Don't worry about him. And then his father came to the workplace and announced, "This is my son died here."
Yes.
And that's how the employees found out. So they tried to cover it up because they wanted to, downplay the severity of it. So that's one story that you should read. And in here it also talks about how 3 of the employees from this particular facility, they ended up breaking their non-disclosure agreements. These are former employees. And they talked about the conditions that these people were working in.
Yes.
Here's another article that was put out by The Verge that talks about those conditions, and it's a pretty gruesome read. They show, it's called The Trauma Floor, and they show pictures of the actual offices that these people were working in, and some of the signs that basically, they have these things called wellness checks where they force you to go on a break for but you only have 9 minutes or something like that. You have a few minutes. So you're looking at the most horrifying images all day long, and you're forced to look at it. You're looking at murders, animal torture, children being tortured, sexual things, just like, the underbelly of human society. This is what these people have to see all day long, and they get traumatized to the point where some of them got PTSD, and they were given prescription drugs to try to help them sleep at night because they couldn't sleep. They were so disturbed even after they left the company, after they left the job. But when they were going through these things, they only had like these tiny little breaks. It's like you have 9 minutes to go cry in the wellness room. Go cry for 9 minutes, but make sure you don't take 10 minutes because then you'll be docked, and
every second of their working day
was micromanaged.
Was micromanaged. That's right.
So this is an article that you should read through that shows what the working conditions were, and what we're talking about here are testimonies of actual people who suffered this. And it's not just one testimony, it's many of these employees talking about things. So this was a pretty thorough investigative report. This is what Zuckerberg is calling overdramatic.
Yes.
He thinks they're a little overdramatic. Not to mention that these people that work at these jobs, these are like the worst jobs in the world if you ask me, having to look at this stuff. They only get paid about $28,000 a year.
Right.
While the average Facebook employee, the ones that were in that room sitting there listening to Mark Zuckerberg talk during the Q&A session, they get $240,000 a year.
Well, their total compensation amounts to $240,000, right?
Yeah. So it's just, these are the ones on the bottom of the rung. Let's just take a look at one more. We're going to watch a clip from one of the videos that was done by The Verge, giving you some of the examples from one of the former employees of what he had to deal with every day and what they had to deal with every day, so you can see the kinds of things that were going on that Zuckerberg was calling overdramatic.
What were some of the kinds of things that you would see that would be really hard for you?
Where do I start? Animals, mostly animals, abusive animals. I've seen them had a puppy with a rope hanging it, and I've seen a pit of pigs, and they threw fire, and you can hear the pigs screaming. I don't want to get emotional talking about the animals.
There was one where there was a baby there were twin babies from Saudi Arabia, and the mother was dropping the baby on the ground. This is one we saw over and over again, and then choked the baby, and you hear the baby gurgling and trying to breathe. And for days, it infected my mind. I had to know what happened to this baby because I'd seen it over and over and over again. And luckily, the baby was okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I just think about all the animals all the time. And that's what I'm still thinking about, even though I left.
Yeah. Do you remember the first video that you saw?
It was a video in a different language, and it was these two teenagers, and they came across an iguana on the street. And one of the kids grabbed the iguana by the tail, and they started to smash the iguana onto the ground, and you could just hear the iguana screaming. And that was one of the first videos I saw in that queue.
Yeah.
And they kept slamming the iguana onto the ground, and the iguana just kept screaming and screaming, and then screaming stopped, and it was just a bloody pile, and the kids were just laughing at the iguana.
Were you able to remove that video from Facebook?
No, since that video had no title and no caption, we were supposed to send it to a different queue for Spanish speaking. But I don't think there really was a Spanish speaking queue that was taking care of that.
Killing an animal on screen, uploading that to Facebook, at least while you worked there, that was okay.
That was okay. I just think about that. And we're not helping the animals either. We're not even humans. We're not even helping humans. I have seen videos of a babysitter choking a toddler to death and giving bloody noses to babies. And it stays, and nobody does anything, and it's just there. It's always there. And you have to always look at it. You always see death every single day. You see pain and suffering. And it just makes you angry because they're not doing anything. And the stuff that does get deleted, it winds up back there anyway.
All right, so let's talk about that. When I first saw that and I heard that part where he's talking about everything, they look at it, it's horrible stuff, and then it gets, they delete it, they flag it, they try to get rid of it, and then it keeps winding up back on Facebook.
And what's wrong with that flagging system?
In the wake of, if you upload a video that has like 5 seconds of somebody else's copyright music on it, that will immediately get deleted. But these videos of the most horrendous things are continuously, they just stay, and
Yes.
nothing happens. What are they even paying these companies for and making these people do these jobs for? Just to traumatize them? So this is going to be a really big problem. And the reason for that is because recently the EU just put out a big law demanding that Facebook remove illegal content. So in the past, this is what they did to try to remove that illegal content. And Zuckerberg said that these stories were overdramatic. No, they're not. They were not successful in removing it. For some reason, it stayed up there. Now they're going to have to remove illegal content all across the EU. Let's take a look at that article.
Okay, so this is from Reuters. Facebook can be forced to remove content worldwide after landmark EU court ruling. Brussels, Facebook can be ordered to police and remove illegal content worldwide, Europe's top court said on Thursday, in a landmark ruling that rights activist says raises concerns some countries could use it to silence critics. The judgment means social platforms can be forced to seek out hateful content deemed illegal by a national court in the 28-country bloc rather than wait for requests to remove posts as it currently does under EU rules. Facebook and other platforms can also be made to comply with requests to take down content globally, even in countries where it is not legal, the Luxembourg-based Court of Justice of the European Union, CJEU, ruled.
So this is an interesting ruling, an interesting article.
Right.
It's landmark, that's for sure. So let's see what happens from that and how Facebook does respond to that. And just,
Right.
a last, something we want to say last about this is there are alternative platforms like Gab that are doing things the right way. We're on Gab. Gab is wonderful.
Yes.
Gab's had a very interesting story. We might do some coverage of that
Yeah,
one
I
day.
enjoy Gab.
Yeah. Just this week, Gab News sent out a study done for Facebook users. They did a study to show that Facebook basically causes depression. It induces feelings of depression. So this is the study that was done. A paper published in the Journal of Experimental Economics compared two sets of students from Texas A&M. One group used Facebook and one didn't access it for a week. The study found that the group of students using Facebook had more feelings of depression, ate out more, and made more impulse purchases.
Fascinating.
Right? This is a really fascinating study, and it basically shows that all these behaviors that are really bad for us and bad for our lives in general, they seem to happen more when you're on Facebook more. So Facebook's just evil. Get off of Facebook.
Yes.
We've gotten off of Facebook, and it's one of the best things we've done for
Yes.
2019 as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned. So. All right, moving on to our next topic in the news is we're going to talk about the 77th Brigade in the UK. It is this Psyops army. And there was a recent article that came out that basically is linking Twitter, a Twitter executive, to this 77th Brigade Psyops. So before we get into the article, this is called Exclusive Twitter Executive for Middle East is British Army Psyops Soldier. Before we get into this article, Tavon, tell us a little bit about this particular unit of, trolls and online cyber army soldiers.
Well, what the article seems to describe is a continuation of what was released through Snowden, dealing with operations that were related to JTRIG, GCHQ, and its contractors, where it looked like if you go through that PowerPoint presentation that was presented, that was released by Snowden, this ties in or corroborates the whole set of techniques that these units do, dealing with disinformation, dissuading people from looking at certain content online, initiating cyber warfare, also psychological warfare against targets when it comes to the sharing of content, the release of content. And what this article is basically describing is a merger between the social media platforms at the top level, the executive level of these companies, with basically information warfare.
Now, this is really important, and we're going to talk about this a lot, I'm sure, on Real Speaks in general, because we just released, a couple months ago, we released a presentation where Tavon and I walked through all of the documents that were leaked by Snowden that showed JTRIG, or the Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group, which
Right.
is put out by GCHQ, which is, UK's intelligence, the equivalent to NSA, right?
Right.
In America. And it just basically shows what these people do online, and it gives you all the details, all the tactics. So we're talking about things like sock puppet accounts, mass reporting you, things like astroturfing, lots and lots of smear articles, disinformation agents, and it's running rampant all over the internet right now. It's very difficult to fight.
And these techniques are used to disrupt commerce, to disrupt, to remove individuals or companies or organizations from the online community.
To sway elections as well.
Exactly.
It's used, and a lot of it has to do with groups that have been funded by people like Soros, funding all these different organizations in order to try to sway public opinion. So this is really big. And the best thing that you can do as an individual who uses the internet for information and whatever else you use it for is you really need to sharpen your own discernment skills. You need to ask yourself like a series of questions. Whenever you're reading an article, you need to be able to see who that person is, because most of these soldiers, such as the ones from the 77th Brigade, they're all anonymous.
Yes, that's right.
They're all anonymous people.
They never show their face.
They don't show their face. You can't look into their background. You can't check any of their credentials because they're just anonymous people. So
Yes.
it's unfortunate that there's so many of these like internet researchers that are anonymous people putting out these news stories and spreading rumors, and nobody seems to know where the truth is anymore.
Yeah.
So there are some things that you can do. The first thing is don't take any information from anonymous sources. You need to be able to see their background so that you can make your own judgment
Yes.
as a truly informed and educated citizen looking at information.
Yeah, you have to look
online.
see if they have a body of work, what kind of fruit did they have.
Absolutely. So, with that said, let's just take a quick look at what this article says, because this is pretty groundbreaking as well. The senior Twitter executive with editorial responsibility for the Middle East is also a part-time officer in the British Army's Psychological Warfare Unit, Middle East Eye has established. Gordon Macmillan, who joined the social media company's UK office 6 years ago, has for several years also served with the 77th Brigade, a unit formed in 2015 in order to develop non-lethal ways of waging war. As a comment, this non-lethal, they act like it doesn't hurt anybody,
Right.
but the stuff that these people do online, it destroys lives.
Yes.
So it hurts people, trust me. The 77th Brigade uses social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as podcasts, data analysis, and audience research to wage what the head of the UK military, General Nick Carter, describes as information warfare. Carter says the 77th Brigade is giving the British military the capability to compete in the war of narratives at the tactical level. The war of narratives. That's a really interesting way of putting it, right? To shape perceptions of conflict. Manipulate. what
Sounds like
people think.
1984.
Yeah, 1984. Some soldiers who have served with the unit say they have They say they have been engaged in operations intended to change the behavior of target audiences. So this is a very interesting article. You want to make some comments on the fact that these people have two jobs? I mean, they got 1 foot in Twitter and Facebook, and
Like-
1 foot in this Psyops war in the UK.
Yeah, so this article is also presenting that what we're looking at also are people who have 2 jobs at least. Who knows who else they're contracted with. And so this might be an interesting thing as far as society, how society has changed by people you think only work one job, who's your co-employee, co-worker, and that person is actually an informant / an intelligence officer / reservist who's using that job as fuel, as content to do this other job. So they might be there to spy on you and your activities.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are becoming more and more visible to the general population.
And let me just tell you, I won't go into any details or name any names or anything, but we, Tavon and I and our family and our business and our project, we have definitely been the receiving end from people that come from the 77th Brigade. We know it.
Yeah.
We know it. It's been going on for years. We have received all the different kinds of attacks that can be thrown at someone online. So we know it very well. So it's good to see an article like this come out. It helps to validate some of the things we've been suspecting
And
all this time.
other people suspected too who've been working
Yeah.
on disruptive type of research.
All right, moving on to other news. So Greta Thunberg has been in the news a lot. We all know her as the angry teenager climate activist. We're not going to go over, what she said and everything, because a lot of people have covered that. However, I do want to highlight one thing. Just in case you thought this was all spontaneous, you have to understand that Greta Thunberg is connected and funded by George Soros.
Yep.
Now, this is an article here. It's called Surprise, the official escort for 16-year-old global warming expert Greta Thunberg is a leftist hack funded by George Soros org. This is the connection that people need to understand, especially when you see these political climate change protests and there's all this energy around it. This stuff is very well funded. It is a narrative they're trying to get people to go against. There's, of course, tons of scientific evidence and documentation showing that climate change and global warming is a hoax. So this is an energy momentum that's being put out there on purpose by, well-funded strikes by George Soros to try to control the narrative and make everybody. I mean, right now there's like 2 kids that have committed suicide because they're so afraid that we're all going to die soon because of carbon.
Yes.
It's so awful what's going on, and it's even more awful that people fall for it. So we just want to show you the funding behind it and the link that was found with Greta. So, okay, here we go. Let's take a look at this article. And I'll start reading. 16-year-old Greta Thunberg traveled by boat to the U.S. from Sweden to lecture Americans on global warming. This 16-year-old is an expert, we are told. Greta Thunberg told Americans, "You're not trying hard enough." Evidently, Greta wants us to travel by boats to and from Europe. Greta is a media-created phenomenon. What the media does not tell you is who is behind this perky kid. If you check out her photos, young Greta is being escorted around the country by her handler, far-left activist Louisa Marie Neubauer. And here are some tweets from an account, Wide Awake, Q Army Swiss Division, talking about Thunberg. And this is Thunberg's handler. She's the one who's been traveling around with her. Her handler on the photos behind her, you see Louisa Marie Neubauer, her handler. She's a member of the One Foundation managed by Bono, Bill Gates, and George Soros.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not just Soros. You've got Bill Gates in there too. And, you know, here's the deal, folks. Whenever I hear climate change activism, I see this agenda of people who want to kill everybody on the planet. They want population control. They want to get rid of all these useless eaters, and that's why they're creating this crazy story about climate change and how we only have a few months left to live.
Right.
Right? And let's blame it on us. It's us. We're destroying the planet. And anyway, so let's talk about this One Foundation, okay? This is where this all comes from. The One Foundation is funded by George Soros. There is a website you can go and see all the foundations that are funded by him, so you can see what's behind this.
Yeah, the tentacles.
So the next time you see the angry teenager yelling at you, saying, "I shouldn't be here. I should be in school."
How dare you?
Yes, Greta, you should be in school, but instead, your parents, who are both members of the entertainment industry community, her father's an actor,
Yeah.
and her mother is like a singer and performer.
Right.
Okay, so they're all actors.
Yes.
They're all actors. They're crisis actors. They're
Yeah,
agenda actors. This is what George Soros organizations fund. And last on our coverage, speaking of crisis acting and things of that nature with climate control, we had a prank recently with a woman who stood up at an event and said that eating dead people isn't fast enough to save the planet. We need to eat babies. But this was a prank.
Right.
That was put on by LaRouche PAC.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So this was during a town hall meeting with Ocasio-Cortez, and basically she was talking about she's taking a Q&A with what to do about the climate change situation, the man-made climate change situation. So this lady stands up and offers her opinion that the only way to fix the problem is for us all to eat babies, and she seemed really serious about it, and it turns out that was a setup from LaRouche PAC.
Yeah, so let's take a look. What we're looking at here is the tweet where LaRouche PAC took credit for it and said, yeah, this was a prank. They thought it was satire. A lot of people got really upset, and they're like, this is why I'm not a Republican and whatever. But basically, let's take a look at the prank itself.
Climate crisis. We only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel.
Look at the eyeballs.
It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying, we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you, you're a pollutant. Too much CO2.
You're a
we
pollutant.
have to start now, please. You are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution. So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies, that's not enough.
This is classic.
We
Let's
need
look
to
at the
eat
response,
babies,
though.
and this is very
Look at how she
serious.
responds to
Please
this.
respond.
No, thank you.
I like how everyone tried to be civil.
We'll go
like,
ahead.
Yeah, like, okay, this is normal.
Okay.
yeah, this is.
Look at her face. Look at her face.
No, we'll go ahead. No. Yeah, no. Thank you. So I think, so one of the things that's very important to us is that we need to treat the climate crisis with the urgency that it does present. Luckily, we have more than a few months. We do need to hit net zero in several years.
Oh my God.
But I think we all need to understand that there are a lot of solutions that we have, and that we can pursue, and that if we act in a positive way, there's space for hope.
Luckily, we have more than a few months. Anyway, I'm hoping that not too many people are actually falling for this nonsense, but that was a really good prank. I liked it. I thought it was funny. It's like, let's take the ridiculousness of what these people are talking about, and let's really highlight it and put it in their faces, right? So.
Yeah, well, I mean, LaRouche Pack, they said that's what the satire was, to draw the natural conclusion of what would happen under such a deal.
Yeah, well, there you have it. So that is our first coming back to the scene current events show for the week. Please tune in. I think we're going to do the show every Thursday. Every Thursday, the show will be out on YouTube. Now, the best way to make sure that you get all the new shows, just in case you don't get notified by YouTube, is at the bottom of this video, there's a link to the website, the realspeaks.com website.
Yes.
And there's a mailing list on there that you can sign up for. And every time a new show comes out, we will send you an email with the show directly in your inbox. That is the best way to find out if there's a new show.
Yeah, please join the mailing list. Yes.
Absolutely. And we would just like to take this moment to let you guys know that we have some more products for sale. But this one is a book. So Tavon and I wrote a book called Forbidden Tech. And this book is about all the technologies that are hidden and suppressed that they don't want you to know about. And so there's some free energy stuff in there because that's the field that we work in.
Yeah.
There's also interesting things like cars that run on water.
The patents for these technologies.
Patents for the technologies, the energy industry cover-ups and the scandals and different people, inventors that have been murdered for their devices. But then it also crosses over into things like COINTELPRO, J-Trig, gang stalking,
electronic harassment,
V2K. There's a lot of topics in there. We put together a book. We have a printed book. You can get it in ebook form. We've also read the book out loud and created an audio book read by us to really bring the information to life. And there's a video course. And the best part is that we have just put all of these products on sale right now. So they're really affordable, and we would love it if you would pick up a copy of our book to listen to in the car or to watch our video courses to help get yourself informed about this information, because this is the stuff they don't want you to know about, because it can really help you if you understand what sorts of technologies are truly going on in our world right now.
And how's it being used.
So with that said, there will be a link to our website for the book below this video. And that's it for now, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week on Real Speaks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.